Hello everybody, Mrs McCullough here. How would you like to hear a story? I thought you might say yes. Well, I've got a traditional tale for you today, but it's slightly different. Tony Bradnam, the man who wrote the story, has made some changes. I wonder if you can spot what they are. Listening carefully. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. The Tale of Little Red Riding Hood. Chapter 1. "Please, Mother, can I go now?" moaned Little Red Riding Hood. She was standing in the doorway of the cottage where the two of them lived. "I really don't want to be late. I promised Granny I'd be there on time." Little Red Riding Hood was quite cross. This was so annoying. It had taken months of pestering to get Mother to let her visit Granny on her own, and now she seemed to have changed her mind. I'm not sure I should let you go," said Mother. "The forest is full of all sorts of dangerous things. Who knows what might happen?" Little Red Riding Hood sighed. "We've been through this already, Mother. I promise I'll be careful, and I've got my mobile phone." Well, murmured Mother. "All right then. But call me as soon as you get to Granny's." "I will," said Little Red Riding Hood, and she skipped off down the path. Mother waved, and Little Red Riding Hood waved back. But as soon as she stepped into the woods and out of sight, she hissed, "Yes!" and punched the air. So happy. Chapter 2. Little Red Riding Hood was determined to enjoy being out on her own. She felt grown up as she strolled down the path, swinging the basket of goodies Mother had given her for Granny. But suddenly a dark shadow fell across her. She stopped in her tracks. "Hello there," said someone with a very deep voice. "And who are you?" I think we might guess who this might be. Little Red Riding Hood turned around and saw a large hairy figure standing behind her. Something about him was familiar, but she couldn't think what it was. "I'm Little Red Riding Hood," she replied politely, but then she remembered something that her mother had said. "Oh, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." "Quite right too," growled the hairy figure. "What a sensible girl you are. I'll leave you to walk in the woods on your own. Are you going anywhere nice?" "Oh, just to my granny's," said Little Red Riding Hood. "She lives in a cottage on the other side of the forest, and I mustn't be late. Bye." Little Red Riding Hood hurried off. She looked over her shoulder and was surprised to see that the hairy figure had disappeared. He had seemed quite friendly, but she still had a nagging feeling about him. And then it came to her. She remembered. It was the big bad wolf. Mother had shown her a picture of him on the website, so she should have known it was him straight away. Phew, it looked like she'd had a narrow escape. But why hadn't he pounced on her? Perhaps he'd been put off by the woodcutter working in the trees nearby. The woodcutter had a truck, and he was pretty good with an axe. Little Red Riding Hood thought it might be a good idea to store the woodcutter's number on her phone. You never knew when that might come in handy. Soon she had forgotten all about the big bad wolf, and she carried on walking, enjoying the warm day and being out alone. She even stopped to pick some lovely flowers for her granny. Chapter 3. After a while, she arrived at Granny's cottage. She was just about to knock on the door when she noticed it was already open. How strange! Perhaps Granny had left it open for her. "Hello, Granny," she called out. "I brought you some goodies."
"Hello, sweetheart,"
a deep voice replied.
"I'm here in the bedroom."
Little Red Riding Hood stopped at the bedroom door and peered into the room. Somebody was in Granny's bed, wearing Granny's nightdress and Granny's nightcap. But it wasn't Granny. You've guessed it. It was the big bad wolf.
"Well, don't just stand there,"
growled the big bad wolf.
"Come in."
Several things ran through Little Red Riding Hood's mind all at once. What had he done to Granny? She realised it was her fault that the big bad wolf was here. She had told him exactly where Granny lived. Little Red Riding Hood knew she was in great danger too. Great, she thought. Her first trip out on her own, and it was going to end in disaster. She imagined the headline in the newspapers. People would remember her as the girl who was eaten by the big bad wolf. Once upon a time, they'd say, Little Red Riding Hood went to see her granny, bumped into the big bad wolf, and didn't live happily ever after. Poor Red Riding Hood. She had to do something quickly. But what? Have you guessed? Then she looked down into the basket of goodies and saw, that's right, her mobile phone. Could you hang on a minute, Granny? Said Little Red Riding Hood. There's something I need to do. The big bad wolf looked at her surprised. Little Red Riding Hood smiled, stepped out of the room and started sending a text message. Chapter 4. The big bad wolf had got out of bed and was creeping towards her. You know how it goes. What big ears you've got, Granny, said Little Red Riding Hood to slow him down. Really? Growled the big bad wolf. All the better for hearing you with. Yes, and what big eyes you've got, said Little Red Riding Hood. All the better to see you with, growled the big bad wolf. He was still creeping towards her, getting closer and closer and closer. And what big teeth you've got, said Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, they're better to gobble you up, roared the big bad wolf, and he pounced. Just then, somebody crashed through the bedroom window. It was the woodcutter, of course, and he chased the big bad wolf around the bedroom. The big bad wolf squealed with fright, leapt out of the window and ran as fast as he could. They found Granny tied up in her wardrobe. She was fine, but just a little bit upset. As for Little Red Riding Hood, well, she was looking forward to doing a lot more trips out on her own. She had managed okay in the end, hadn't she? Although she wasn't sure that Mum would agree. Did you spot the changes? I wonder what other traditional tales would sound like if we thought of ways to change them. What about if Goldilocks broke into the Three Bears' cottage and instead of sitting on all the chairs and breaking Baby Bear's chair, what could she find instead? I'd love to hear your ideas. Take care. See you soon.